is with very great pleasure, indeed great honor, that I call this session to order. We have an array of very distinguished speakers, and I shall not take up your time. During the course of the meeting, I think there will be opportunity to interact. I will only briefly state that most of us had been at one time or the other NRBs, and speaking for myself, I feel it was a tremendous experience, and we get to think, I think, in a more focused way, more about our country when we are away from home. And I think it is in that spirit, with so much energy has been invested to bring our people abroad, thinking, working, and actively participating. And it is heartening to know that they are also, in a very constructive manner, thinking of engaging themselves in the various issues and affairs, not the least in politics of the resident country. This is, I think, precisely what it should be, or rather what it should have been. Ladies and gentlemen, the topic for the discussion today is the benefits of NRB active participation in the politics of their country of residence. And the first scheduled speaker is Mr. Murshid Alam, Voter Assistant Commissioner, New York City. Thank you very much.
Actually, I just want to talk about my experience and the benefits of NRB involved in the politics in the country of our residents. I have a little bit experience, and that's what just I wanted to talk about. Honorable President Dr. Kamal Hussain, dear friend, Honorable Hassan Park, Senator from Michigan, I know him for a couple of years. Moderator Abu Hassan Chowdhury, guest, NRB participant. My name is Murshid Alam. I'm a Bangladeshi American. The passport I carry is American, but everything about me has Bangladesh written all over. Though I have lived now for almost 24 years in America, Bangla is still the language of my choice. I like rice with a lentil and also fish more than any other food, and I prefer Tagore song to any other brand or variety of music. In short, inside and out, I am a Bengali. I don't find any contradiction in it with my American identity. How it is possible? I recall the Nobel Prize winner Amrita Sen's remark that he was Indian, British, and American, all at the same time, and found no contradiction in such multiple identities. In fact, in his book, Violence and Identity, Professor Sen claimed that the same person can be, without any contradiction, an American citizen of a Caribbean origin, a Christian, a liberal, a woman, a vegetarian long-distance runner, a historian, a feminist, etc. In other words, every one of us has a multiple identity. Prioritizing one identity over the other can result in a very simplistic understanding of person, what he or she should be represents. I understand Dr. Sen his thesis, but would not put it forth to explain my own identity. Instead, let me tell you a little bit about myself and how my transformation came about. Hope will show why being American Bangladeshi at the same time is not a statement of contradiction. I chose to immigrate to the US and to accept American citizenship primarily for the opportunity it offered me personally and the benefit that living in the United States afforded my family. I have made use of this opportunity and feel extremely thankful for the way I have progressed, but not for the moment I have abandoned my other identity, my Bangladeshi self. I am indebted to Bangladesh not only because it is the country of my birth, it is the place where my mother, my father, and two brothers were revered here, but also because Bangladesh helped shape my worldview. As a student at Dhaka University, I learned quickly to become a social and student rights activist. Those were my formative years, the years that made me conscious of my social and political reality and of the challenge it offered for transformation. In the US, though I took part in what may be described as mainstream politics, my primary interest involved promoting and advancing the rights and opportunity of fellow New Americans, those who came from Bangladesh, from other nations around the world. This is the fact and extension of my work in Dhaka, started many years ago. As an environmental scientist, I'm responsible for securing the water quality of the residents of New York City. That's how I make my living. But the principal identity I represent to most people is expressed through my involvement in public service in Bangladesh. Anyone running for an elected office is called a politician. That may be mostly a dirty word. In the US, the same vocation is called public service and public activism. This is the considered to be highly respected and worthy activity, one that has great social value and many ultimately lead to a political office. Whenever such reward arrive, they are always the results of hard work and untold personal sacrifice. One chooses to take part in a public service largely because he or she finds it legal to make a contribution to the community he or she belongs. When a community thrives, one also benefits as a member of the same community. Of course, I don't mean this is only the altruistic affairs. One is expect to reward in a small or large measure, but usually that's not the goal. At least not the goal that I had set for myself when I decided to enter public services. That was about 20 years ago when I joined the local Democratic Party neighborhood club, that is the New York style politics, and began organizing local immigrant communities toward political empowerment. My activities as a member led me to the more responsible position. I became a chair of the board of the directors, eventually the president. The Democratic Club to which I belong was considered to be a mainstream democratic organization. Several years later, I formed my own New American Democratic Club, which was primarily a political vehicle to enroll immigrants and the new Americans. Our immediate goal was to introduce this new member into society which may have been perceived as threatening or incomprehensible. Our members are asked to participate in various activities that would lead them into realizing the American dream, joining the social, political, educational organization, becoming the member of community boards, civic association, encouraging them to learn English language as an important aspect of assimilation. We emphasize the importance of obtaining educational opportunity for their children. I myself ran for the first time a public office called school board and became a member of the local board for twice. Actually, I used to control about $250 million budget and about 5,000 employees we had and 35,000 students I used to serve. There I became a vice president and began to shape local educational policies aimed to helping the new American in my community. I also led the initiative to have Bengali introduction into the New York City school system. My position on the school board helped to obtain various jobs for members of my community and other immigrant communities in New York City area. I also used the prominence of my school board position to lobby for recognition of Bangladesh independence and victory day throughout the New York City. My public activism gave me opportunity to eventually place my name as a candidate for the important position of New York State Senate. It was difficult for any new American to get the full support of Democratic Party organization, the majority party in New York, but I preserved mainly my own and with a political consultant and few friends. I was a campaign against the most powerful 24 years Republican incumbent. The results of the election were a huge surprise to all the political leaders, pundits of New York. To the shock of many seasoned politicians and power broker I garnered 42% of the vote against the formidable and accomplished political veteran. This campaign made me a great deal of credibility as well as visibility in the political arena. High political and public officials gravitated towards my base and let me honest about overnight I became a celebrity. I was asked to join President Bill Clinton's entourage during his official visit to Bangladesh and India in 2000. During this visit to Dhaka, I met with the Prime Minister of Bangladesh and high government official and attended a state dinner hosted by the President in Bangabhavan in Bangladesh. Upon my return, I was made to be New York City Border Assistance Commissioner, and I have received so many awards from different elected officials throughout the years. The US is often described to be a melting point where people from different parts of the world gather and slowly merge into common American national caucus. I have talked enough about my work with Bangladesh in US, but how does this work contribute to Bangladesh? In fact, my ability to contribute to Bangladesh is proportionally dependent on my success as an American. First, everything I do in America is inevitably linked to my Bangladeshi identity. When the New York Times carried a front page article about my run in New York State Senate, it identified me as an immigrant from Bangladesh. When I almost toppled the new Republican icon in a statewide election, Major Network focused on my background as a Bangladeshi. In other words, my success, whatever it is, contribute to improving Bangladesh's image. It helps change the conversation about Bangladesh, a country perennially described as poor, underdeveloped. When they read about me and other successful Bangladeshi Americans, they realize the story of Bangladesh is not one-dimensional. It is a much greater than just stereotype caricature in the media. Recently, I was asked about Bangladesh's image problem, what could be done to improve in the West. My answer to my fellow Bangladeshi Americans is always the same. Prove that you are the best in your profession, whatever it might be, by proving that you are honest, hardworking, useful to the community where you live. You prove your value, and in doing so, you raise the profile of your country of origin. If you are a taxi driver, prove that no one in New York can do this job better than you do. In fact, Bangladeshi taxi drivers have already proven that they are not just the very best in their profession, but also outstanding citizens. You must have read about Bangladesh KB who found $1 million worth of diamond in his taxi, and he literally chased the rightful owner and handed over his property, her property, I'm sorry. The mayor of New York City held a special press conference to hail him for his honesty and to thank him for being a model of New Yorkers. Yes, he has a single taxi driver who helped to be Bangladeshi, who single-handed changed the conversation about Bangladesh. Each time his story was flashed on the TV screens, every news outlet in the city repeated the word Bangladesh with positive images. As look back, the long path I have traveled, two snapshots stand out in my memory. One from my childhood when, with the third grader, I was chosen to be class captain. It gave me the realization that as a leader, even as young as a third grader, and I have been enormous impact on other people's lives. The second snapshot is from my 2003 trip with President Clinton. How did that third grader from a poor, underdeveloped country ended up in Bangabhavan, laughing, chatting with arguably the most powerful man on the earth? The answer everything is when you follow a dream, work hard to realize it. All we have to do. I thank you everybody for listening.
I thank Mr. Murshid Alam for his very interesting paper, bringing together the fusion of identities and the many positive aspects, and also this glorious model set by New York cab driver of the Bangladeshi cab driver, origin New York cab driver. Ladies and gentlemen, we have many virtues. We talk about it and we celebrate it. One of which is, of course, is not moderation. And I have been thrown into this very unpopular task today, although it's again a matter of great happiness. So I would request your indulgence and also the kind presenters of the papers to keep themselves within this set time limit. Immediately after the presentations, there will also be a brief question and answer session. And now again, with very great respect, I call upon Mr. Ehsan Takvim, President, Bangladesh American Public Affairs Committee, Michigan, USA, and he will be talking to us on our political voice in the USA and giving us an example from Michigan. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ehsan Takvim. I'm the President of Bangladesh American Public Affairs Committee in Michigan. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak. Today I'm going to share the best practices from Michigan, what we have done so far. And I think this is kind of tied in with the topic of this presentation today. Those who are familiar with the U.S. Federal Election Commission, back in 2002, there was a passage of campaign refinance reform, and that kind of created a need for political action committees. And in 2004, we have formed this Bangladesh American Public Affairs Committee in Michigan to meet the concerns, the needs of the people. If you're familiar with the PACs in the US, there are many PACs. Every ethnic group has PAC of themselves. But we didn't have one for Bangladesh American. Ideally, in the States, we're all American. But once you have one ethnic group has one PAC, you're at a disadvantage if you don't form one. So that's the reason we formed that PAC. After studying other political action committees, particularly the Indian Political Action Committee, we kind of designed BAPAC to be effective. As I said, we had many organizations from Bangladesh in the US, but none was dedicated for the political action. And again, we're going to show the best practices, some of the things that you can apply into your area. I know many of you are from other countries. Similar model could be used to leverage and use your constituents for your benefit. Just some statistics in the US. If you look at the growth rate of Bangladesh American, it's about 7.6% Bangladesh American community is growing. 58% of the Bangladesh Americans are over the age of 25, have college degrees. 44% of the Bangladesh Americans are employed as managers and professionals. There are about 3,500 physicians in the US. Most of them are engineers, academics, and entrepreneurs. 30,000 Bangladeshi Americans work in the high-tech industry. 500 Bangladeshi Americans are the faculty of the US universities. And about 7,500 foreign students in the US, which is a significant number. The reason I'm showing you all this is, if you have this leverage, what are you going to do with it? So this is, to show you, this Bangladesh American Public Affairs Committee has been registered with Federal Election Commission. It has non-profit and the IRS tax code. So the point is, it is not just a fly-by-night type thing. This is legitimate, and we are going very well. Why are we doing this? Again, if you look at the demographics trend, is positive, going up. And also, our community is not as recognized as a political force like the other group, like the Jewish, Hispanic, or African Americans. And what we like to do is we like to have some kind of maturity that we will be recognized by the American political interest. What we need is build effective partnership with the policymakers. Kind of showing you what are the steps that we need to do, or if you're thinking of forming a political action committee, we need to register with the Federal Election Commission. Then we need to build bridges with the community and the policymakers. Also, we need to establish some grassroots organization for support of the community. And as you know, in the U.S. politics, money talks. You need to have some fundraising. You need to have some get some money out, and follow up with the candidate. What this does, it creates some kind of platform that will help you in the future. This is kind of like a recipe how you do this. What we are showing here is you need to increase your negotiating club. That's the bottom line that we're doing this. The way we have done in the past is we coordinate the campaign funding through one organization. When you do this, this creates something of branding. And also this gives you some negotiating advantage with the policymakers. It's not just you giving them a check, take some pictures, and you walk away. What you want to do is give them the check, work with them, and then follow up. Okay? And the criteria that we use is a candidate that will support you, that will support your cause, whether he's Republican, whether he's Democrat, doesn't matter. Okay? Also, what we like to do is, if there is we need to support the candidate, educating outreach program on that. And of course, we know that without the voter registration drive, you cannot add added names, a new person that to vote. The whole idea is we need to ensure the political leaders recognize the Bangladeshi American as an organized community rather than a collection of individuals. It's not just one person you're doing, a whole lot of person that you're dealing. There is an organization behind it, there will be effectiveness, there's some follow-up, and there are other things. So using the leverage. Okay, this is the formation of BAPAC, and kind of showing you what the vision is. And I can just read this one. It talks about is to promote the values and the principle of the United States Constitution. It's not just we're working with the politician to get our stuff done. We also want to educate our people what your rights are. Okay? Also, what we do here is the awareness of the rights and responsibilities, and to provide them an institution that will legally organize as a group to exercise their political rights. So that's the platform that you saw. This is the mission statement. I want to point out one thing here. There's a whole bunch of things in the mission statement. It's the things that we have is one is the U.S.-Bangladesh relationship. Then you have the civil rights, entrepreneurship, equal opportunity, and immigration. The last four, given the resources we have, we can work with other organizations. But nobody is working on this U.S.-Bangladesh relationship. It is us that we have to do this work. I cannot rely on AFL-CIO, or I cannot rely on Civil Liberties Union to create this Bangladesh-US relationship. We have to work this is ourselves. Others, I could collaborate with them to get the result. Showing you some organizational structure. There are a bunch of advisors, standing committees, and then we have some executive board that does this work. This is the state of Michigan. We have broken up the whole state into 10 regions based on the concentration of Bangladeshi American. So we essentially cover the whole state. Yeah. This is the website of our Public Affairs Committee, and you can go there and get all the detailed information you like. I want some pictures showing off the kickoff of our BAPAC back in 2004. Senator Clark is here. Glad that he's here. He has been with us from day one, and that's one of the advantages we had, that he gave us access to the political system, and without having a champion like him, it would have been difficult for us. Just showing some of this, check writing. Democratic Party Chairman Mark Brewer, Hamtramck City Councilman. By the way, those who know in Michigan, Hamtramck is the largest concentration of Bangladeshi American in Michigan. Also in some area in Detroit. Big population. We're looking at 25,000 Bangladeshi American in Michigan. This is our one of the meetings. Next few slides, I want to show you how you create this platform. Basically, what you have is cities and the suburbs, and one platform. You have the vote, and you need the money. You need both. Okay? community event. I'm going to show you some of the volunteer work. Without the volunteer, the Political Action Committee is difficult to exist. This is the voter registration drive that we do through the local newspaper, asking them to fill out the form. These are the volunteers. They're helping get out the vote program, calling people, letting them know there is election, giving them right, helping them in the polls, the ballot. This is the volunteers working. This is during the presidential election day back in 2004, by the way. This is our board meeting. You need to have regular board meeting to continue the interest and do the strategy. This is our bipartisan relations. The reason I say bipartisan is it's not because we don't like partisan. What we like is we like to work with both the parties. That's why we say bipartisan. This is Governor, the Michigan Governor, Jennifer Granholm. Some of you may know, this is U.S. Senator Carl Levin. He's head of, Armed Services Committee. Yeah. By the way, in this meeting we were pushing for U.S. support for political reform and business growth in Bangladesh. That was our topic with them. We have great support for him. This is John Conyers. By the way, in Michigan, we have a lot of veterans, U.S. congressmen, and given what's going on next year election, if the Democrats are elected, a lot of those guys will be the chairperson of the committee, so it's good to know those guys. Again, Michigan Democratic Party, Mark Brewer, and there is a gentleman standing here, Ramesh Varma. He's a chairperson of the Indian community. Very powerful guy in Michigan and also nationwide. But Indian has a lot of clout now in the political side. A lot to learn from them. This is state senator, Michigan state senator representative. This is the Republican side. Just to show you that you're not only working with the Democrats, but you're also working with the Republicans. This is one of our physicians' house. By the way, what are the benefits if you do this kind of thing? If you're familiar with the nuclear cooperation agreement that is going on with the U.S. and India, the guys behind it was U.S. Impact, the Indian Political Action Committee, just to show you the power they have and the power you can build. This is what we are afraid of doing. This was reported in Wall Street sometime in November 16. Dhaka in decline. I don't know if you've read it. This is definitely it's kind of heartbreaking. No fact, no substance. All information is still like if it was last year. If they had published it last year, I could have agreed. But this year, no. But it is in the community. Wall Street, the guys that are going to invest money in this country. If you're to bring investment in Bangladesh, this is the newspaper we have to go after. We need to educate them. We need to tell them what is the real story, not the false stuff. Okay? But the next one is something that we like. Wall Street talks about Dhaka Stock Exchange. This kind of information will help. And we are working ourselves to educate the business community in the US, give them the strength of Bangladesh, not the weakness. In the media always picks up the weakness of the country. We need to push for this. We are working to push for this kind of thing. This is going to help eventually. Bangladesh being in the frontier, as a frontier nation, I think this is the right time to get on this. But the challenges, I cannot talk about all the successes. There are some challenges that you have to overcome. A few things. The branding is very important. The image that you're going to create. How effective are you going to be? Very critical. Okay? We need to have the partnership with the state and the national political lobbies. Strengthening the community level networks, working with the Bangladeshi community across the US. Leverage what you have. It's not just one stage. Bring all these guys together. Make one lobbying group or one organization that will push your cause. Extending the dialogue with Bangladesh public affairs and political action networks in other countries if necessary. Okay? But the most important thing that we need is political, economic, and commercial linkages, support for the democratic process and the investment opportunities. This can help. And I think if we do this, then what we like to do is we must leverage our number of votes, okay, vote count, and the demographic trends that we have. The reason I said demographic trends, starting 1996, a whole bunch of diversified visas were granted by the US. Those people will be eligible to be US citizens pretty soon now. Now is the time. They're becoming US citizen, go through the voter registration drive, and they become US citizen, and you can have your leverage. Okay? We like to actively support the government developing the policies and programs to promote our cause. US government, Bangladesh government, both. We like to work with them. And the only way we can do it is through participation and collaboration. And I think the way our system is set up, it can be done. The system demands we do this. Just to kind of wrap things up, we have a lot of our organization members here. Myself is here. We have Dr. Aziz Khandekar. He's the co-chair of endorsement committee, where you're here. Okay. Dr. Safiul Hassan, he's the chairperson for fundraising committee. He's here. Okay. Kamal Rahman, you're here. Okay. And we have, I thought Ahmed Khan was here. Ghazi, oh, Jabi, you're here. Good. Okay. Kurtis Ghazi's here. Shahin, I don't know if he's here or not, but, and also Mr. Alba Wakanda, he's our advisors, and Anson Clark is our advisor also. Not sure if I could show you, but just very quickly, I want to point out a few things. This is not by BAPAC, but it is Bangladeshis in Michigan. We have an organization. This is what we have contributed. The flood and the cyclone victims. $114,000 we have sent to Bangladesh. So just to show you, if you're organized, the power of the organization. With that, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ehsan Taqveen. Many glittering examples from Michigan reflect the virtues of coalition building and bipartisan work, which, as a visitor to the great country, I've noticed is very much an American way of life. And I think your initiatives must be underway in being followed by our expatriate Bangladeshis in other states, and also they will have the same satisfying story to tell. The next presenter is Dr. Halimur Rahman, Assistant Professor Russian and Leadership, U.S. Air Force Academy, Colorado Springs in Colorado.
Overcome them correctly, and the question will come right at the heart: is why is it that we can't do all these issues? And there are some statistics that I'm sure you're aware of, that Africa and Asia, including Middle Eastern countries, happen to be at the very bottom of the rung in terms of development, in terms of health, society, economy, and so on and so forth. For many years, experts thought colonialism, dependency, lack of natural resources have been the causes of lack of development, economic growth, social prosperity, establishing justice and law in a society, and so on and so forth. Lately, a lot of these people are challenging, a lot of experts are challenging this particular assertion. They're saying a lot of countries that have not been colonies, have been colonies, are doing what? Take a look at South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, Hong Kong. These have been colonies. These are actually right along the First World. Why is it? There were several countries in Latin America for over 150 years, they have not been colonies. They're still poor. Why is it? They're countries that have little natural resources, but they're right along with the First World, developed nations. Japan, for example. Why is it? Why can't we do something better? Now, there's some root causes, and I would like to provide some definitions for the purposes of this discussion, but I think most of these things would be quite simply understood. Cultural values. What are cultural values? Broadly defined as deeply ingrained habits, assumptions, generalizations. Culture is the sum of all these cultural values. Culture influences shape and shapes the individual values, and in turn is being influenced by them as well. So there's interconnectivity between these culture and cultural values. One influences the other. Advanced culture and static culture. I'm going to refer to these refer to these two terms in terms of developed nation and less developed nations. And these are somewhat terms that can be challenged, that can be talked about, that can be argued with, and all that we can do, but it will not help us understand why we don't do as well as we should be doing. So I'm going to actually get to that. There are a couple of assumptions that we hold to be true. Number one, human progress, broadly defined, is not possible without economic growth and prosperity. Successful businesses and entrepreneurial activities, innovations, etc., happen to be the engines of economic growth. Creating successful businesses is therefore a precondition for general human progress. Assumption number two, businesses and entrepreneurship are engines of economic growth. These businesses are run by people. Businesses are as efficient as people are. Hence, economic growth is not possible when people are not efficient and capable. These are general assumptions for us to talk about. I want you to focus on these cultural values. There's 12 of them I'm going to talk about, show you, and want you to think again about whether or not these are true. Time orientation. In progressive cultures, as you will see, I've actually provided colors. These are the cultural values. These are the progressive cultures. These would be the static cultures, what we call the less developed nations. And the impact, the effect of these cultural values, we can always think about them. Time orientation. In the advanced nations, we know the emphasis is on the future. Now, we can talk about whether or not all fragments and all segments of the society in particular does this. This will not be true, but in general, these happen to be true for the most part. In static cultures, we emphasize the present and the past. We are fatalists. We also think to be things are predestined, predecided. Education in progressive cultures happens to be the key in progress in life, career, opportunity, etc. It is of marginal importance for advancement in career and in other activities of life in static cultures. Merit, medha, central to advancement in career in progressive cultures. Amader samaje, connections, family, bribe, etc. is what counts for the most part, used to be. It's probably changing these days. Hopefully it will change more. Ethical code tends to be more rigorous in progressive cultures, and it tends to be very fluid and is applied unevenly depending on your social status, economic ability, political affiliation, and so on and so forth. Justice and fair play. Universal expectation of every citizen, and more often than not protected by the constitution of the country. In progressive cultures, oftentimes justice and fair play is like personal advancement and often depends on social status and your ability to pay and so on and so forth in more static societies. Authority. This is a very interesting cultural value that we notice. Authority tends to disperse horizontally in advanced societies. In static cultures, it is concentrated downward, vertically. Secularism, the influence on social life, civil life is relatively small. In progressive cultures, it is very strong in less progressive cultures. Work is central to achieving good life, looked upon as good in most developed nations. Often, work is a burden and is done by those who are in lower ranks of the society, lower ranks of the society. Work is done by others. It's not necessarily the source of pride. Frugality happens to be the basis of future progress, economic growth and development in progressive cultures. Most static cultures don't have enough resources to have it. Creativity and initiative is often snubbed in static cultures, is encouraged and nurtured in progressive cultures. Respect for law and order is a basis and foundation for all democratic values and systems, has strongest correlation with development. as opposed to in the static cultures it is subject to control of the powerful and wealthy. Now, what I want also all of us here thinking about our national development and so on and so forth, think about some quite interesting facts in my view. If we look at Bangladeshis living abroad, especially in the developing nations of Europe, USA, United States, Canada, and other countries, we know that they generally do very well in whatever professions and occupations they are in. Is it the same Bengalis, same Bangladeshis from the same country? Why is it that they're doing so well there, and we can't do it here? So is it possible that they have adopted the cultural values that we have just talked about, those 10, 12, whatever is established by the social norms in those societies, we have actually moved there, adopted those, and actually started to function better. These same individuals, if we are put here with the same habits, won't be able to function that way. Is it possible? Within each country, advanced or poor, one notices some ethnic groups performing absolutely better than others. For example, Jews, Sikhs, Koreans, Chinese, Bangladeshis, East Asians in the United States and many other countries do tremendously well. They're known for businesses, they're known for education, professional areas, and so on. So why is it that those people do well? And in those fragments of society, we can actually talk about those things. It's interesting about, I want to show you some things that correlates to these 10, 12 social values, cultural values that I've talked about. There's an interesting story about a Honda car distributor, a dealer. He's a Peruvian. He lived a long time in Japan. And he thought about these things. What is the difference between Japan and Peru? Japan is right at the top, the most developed nation in the world. In all respects, you can think about it in all aspects of life. Peru happens to be right at the bottom. Okay? And he said his experience actually showed that these are the 10 things that are different in terms of the children in these two countries learning and not learning. Japanese children learn these 10 things. Peruvian children do not necessarily learn these things as institutional issues. Okay? There's order, cleanliness, punctuality, kindness, responsibility, achievement, honesty, respect of the right of others, respect for law, work ethic, frugality. Any country you look at, these are the foundational social values, cultural values that promoted will help any nation go forward. Daniel Tungaman Manguel happens to be a Mexican-American political leader, social activist, and so on and so forth. And he found that there's a major difference between Mexicans functioning in American society and in Mexico. What he found that, he says, Mexican-American cataloged a series of values and attitudes that present obstacles, barriers to upward mobility of immigrated Mexicans in the U.S. society. What are those? The highly centralized and vertical tradition of authority we talked about in less developed nations. Focus on the past and present, not the future. Rejection of the tyranny of time, meaning time is going whether or not you work or not. Our attitude toward time, we all know how we actually delay in a social engagement, party environment. We are the same kind of people, actually, we arrive right on time before we work in advanced societies, in developed societies, wherever we live. Okay, so these are some of the things. The other interesting thing I want to show you is another Lionel Sosa's observation about some of these things, and you will find these things very close to what we do. Resignation of the poor. To be poor is to deserve heaven. To be rich is to deserve hell. It is good to suffer in this life because in the next life you will find eternal reward. With this attitude, I don't think we're going to achieve much economic progress and social development in any country. Low priority of education. The girls don't really need it. They'll get married anyway, and the boys, it's better that they don't go to work to help the family. Education happens to be the foundation of all kinds of progress in civilization, in all kinds of progress, fatalism. Individual initiative, achievement, self-reliance, ambition, aggressiveness, all these are useless in the face of an attitude that says we must not challenge the will of God. Some of these things can be controversial, as I said, and so on. I want to actually move on to this last segment of my paper and talk about some of the things that we could do. So the big question remains here is, how do we make cultural changes in Bangladesh? Or in any society for that matter? How do we make a whole nation become time-oriented, frugal, education-oriented, and so on and so forth? I think there are some things that national leadership can do. There are some things that, as individuals, we can do. So, a few things that I would like to actually note. Establish institutions and organizations to research the relationship between cultural values and economic and social growth, things that we have just talked about. To disseminate the results and find ways to continue to evaluate the progress. Number 2, establish institutions to train leaders for tomorrow. Establish leadership, training courses, classes, programs, schools, colleges, workplace, and other places. Start teaching these values to the new generation from the earliest stages of life, from preschool through college and university. In 20 years, we'll have a new generation of citizens with higher standards and better ingrained values. Imagine we train the whole population of first grade not to throw chocolate wrappers on the street. In 20 years, you will see there are no chocolate wrappers on the street. This is bound to happen. This is absolutely bound to happen. All we need is time and proper steps taken at the right time, at the right place. Start re-educating the adult, because we can't actually lead the adults that are already living, going through. So through all means available, electronic, print media, billboards, night schools, whatever. To achieve these goals, there are a couple of things we need to understand. The current leadership must understand that real leadership is not about dominance and control. It is not raising your hand and taking the old masses after you and winning wars anymore. Things have changed. The world has become a different place. It is not about strong convictions and imposing them on followers. The leadership must also understand that the real leadership is getting people to confront reality and change values. Reality is what we have, what we have just talked about. And that's what we need to confront and change and think how to do that. Our nation has long been burdened by poverty, disease, illiteracy, corruption, injustice, lack of order, etc. And our national leadership has failed to create a healthy and prosperous society. We must undertake this initiative so we can leave behind a nation from which our children will not run away like me. We must build a nation in which our children will grow up healthy, to live in a productive and fulfilling life, educated to compete in the 21st century world market, and above all, be happy. And these would be my final remarks. The current leadership has an incredible opportunity to change all this. In order to do so, it must be willing to transform this nation by creating leaders out of everyone, not only some. We must undertake this initiative so we can leave behind a nation from which our children will not run away, in which our children will grow up healthy to live a productive and fulfilling life, where our children can be educated to compete in the 21st century world market, and above all, be happy.
While values are indivisible and universal, cultural values are dynamic and can be encouraged to change from time to time, from place to place. There is a little change in the order of presentation since Dr. Nurul Nabi has to go for another meeting. He will now be speaking to us Dr. Nurul Nabi is Councilman, Plainsboro Township, New York, USA. Thank you.
Before I do, Rupa Khan will make a special announcement.
There is a confusion, like somebody knows me with Dilara Khan and there are other people that knows me with Rupa, so this is me. Both of those are same thing. We have with us, there's a little change. We are very honored to have Mr. Anwar Chowdhury, British High Commissioner, and he's a British of Bangladeshi origin with us. Please give him a big applause. We are very honored to have him here with us. I know he has very busy schedule, but he could make it here. And again, another one, big plus. And you can see we have like whole bunch of leaders that are abroad in here. We have Hanson Clark, State Senator of Michigan. We have councilmen, Dr. Nurul Nabi and others. So we are very, opportunate to have all these people with us here. Now, before Dr. Nurul Nabi goes, we would request Mr. Anwar Chowdhury to come here, please, and share. And this is a leadership session. So.
Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank you very much for that warm welcome. And may I begin with an apology for not being able to join you earlier. I had two other functions, but I wanted to be here with you. I think this is an outstanding initiative, and clearly one that is supported by so many people here, because I think the need for this sort of organization, this sort of network, is quite clearly helpful. When I first looked at this conference, it was titled as NRB, and I immediately thought, well, I can't possibly qualify because I'm not really a non-resident Bangladeshi. But I kind of wanted to qualify because I see, I am of course a British citizen and a British ambassador here, but I really desperately wanted to qualify because I think there are a group of people like me who are now citizens of other countries and don't see themselves as non-resident Bangladeshis, but see themselves as British or American or Bangladeshi heritage. And that's how I see myself, as a British citizen of Bangladeshi heritage. And I think we also represent a subgroup which can make a contribution and wants to make a contribution to the cause that you gathered here for. One thing is certainly true, if my own emotions is anything to go by, and that is the real strength of feeling that we have for this country, for the people of this country. This is not our country, but we desperately want to see the potential of this country realized. We desperately want to see poverty eliminated from this country. And we look for ways to help, to join you in your struggle. We look for opportunities for joining you. And we sometimes feel frustrated that the network's infrastructure isn't quite there. Sometimes quite angry about that too. That despite all this goodwill that now exists around the world in various forms, whether you're Chinese or people of Bangladeshi heritage, as I call myself, that there isn't this network, there isn't this environment for us to engage, for us to contribute. Now, some people want to do more than that. Some people, as the name suggests, NRBs, want to actually make that contribution more permanent. They want to come back, they want to invest here, they want to do something here that gives them meaning. Most of these people, you'll find, are actually quite successful. What they're looking for is not necessarily money, but a bit of self-actualization, to give some meaning to their existence, to where they came. So what do they bring here? Well, they certainly can bring money here, but that I think is the least of the asset that they bring to this country. They can come back here, they're obviously slightly better off, they will be able to bring practices here. But I think it's the other assets that perhaps people don't understand as much as they need to. What do NRBs, why should we spend time attracting them to keep them. I think it's the other assets that we need to know. You will all know the histories of the Chinese diaspora, the Indian diaspora, all of that. Many of you are experts, you'll discuss it. But for me, some of the things they bring back, which we need to really think about, are the following. One is access to markets. These people, these NRB types, would have worked in big companies, would have worked in segments, and they really know how that segment actually works. And they can actually link Bangladesh to that segment, bring that expertise, that access, because they have the networks in those segments. Okay? Whether it's in IT, whether it's in pharmaceuticals, whether it's in manufacturing, whether it's in some other sector. So that access is vital. That is the real capital. I think they also bring back vision. And vision is a strange thing. It's very difficult and it's very easy. Vision is easy once you've seen it. And these people have seen it because they were there. They were exposed to it. It's harder to see it if you're not there. So I think they bring back a picture, a vision that they know it's real. This is not somebody's sort of rhetoric. This is not somebody's kind of loose picture. They've seen it, they've done it. It's not a loose picture. They of course bring back know-how. How to actually, they're experts. Some of them will be, they're professionals, they're doctors, they're engineers. And I think perhaps the other thing worth thinking about is that not only they bring things, there's something they don't bring, which is equally important. They don't bring baggage. And that is very important in a politically dynamic country like this. Leaving behind baggage allows you to move faster. So, if that's what's on offer, what is needed here in Bangladesh to bring them here and to keep them here? Well, I think you need infrastructure. Infrastructure of different forms. Social infrastructure, technical infrastructure, political infrastructure, and perhaps top of all, a legal infrastructure that they can rely on. If you don't have those securities, it's very difficult for people like us to stay or even want to come. We're not asking for a lot, just a minimum, so you can get started. Minimal protection in those areas, so you can make a start. And if you give them that, they will come. They will take the lead. Okay? They will have enough faith to take that lead. And there will be catalysts. There will be catalysts like they have been in other countries. To take these segments, take these markets, take these new areas, and connect Bangladesh to the first world, to a pace of change that wouldn't be possible otherwise. And so the country with them can take it. The most interesting and surprising thing for me is that it is now beginning to happen. This thing that we talked about is beginning to happen. I have a friend who gave up a $2 million job as an MD of a top bank because he felt all of this. I looked at him and I said, what on earth have you done? What have you done? He said, well, look, I've been listening to the rubbish you've been saying for all this time. And I wanted to put it to practice. I wanted to sort of put my mouth and money together. And I was just amazed that this man, I mean, it's easy to say these things, it's easy for me to say these things. I would never have to put $2 million of my salary and $5 million of my savings into this belief. So it's beginning to happen. And I wondered, I stand today, he's here, I mean, he's not here with you today, but he is in Bangladesh. And I won't say too much more because he will identify the individual, but I wonder whether he will stay. I will look at this man, when I finish here. And I will want to see that this guy stayed, he did something, he succeeded, and he made a sector and the business out of the area that he's in. And his example was seen as a catalyst for many more like him, many more who originated from you, who live now abroad, either with this heritage or even as your citizen, who wants to come back and say, we're part of it. Thank you very much.
I would, if I may, put that on the list of challenges to see that not only this particular individual stays, but that his example is taken up by many, many more of our NRBs in various parts of the world. And now it is over to Dr. Nur Nabi. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I have another meeting, that's what I know this order is broken. Mr. Chairman, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to talk about for a minute how I became councilman of Plainsboro Township, New Jersey in USA. I have earned it in old-fashioned way, through hard work. And what were the hard works? I have been a member of Democratic Party for 15 years. For last 15 years, without any exception, every year we have raised funds for Democratic Party at my house. And for this, of course, credit goes to my wife, Dr. Jinat Ravi there. I have done it for 15 years. And we organized a fundraising for state senator and state assembly person. So there is a challenge in front of us for the NRBs that we live in a country where we must get into mainstream politics to protect our own interest. As of today in the United States, only 3 councilmen of a township, but 500,000 people live there. Half a million NRBs live there. So with this request, I would like to leave on you this responsibility, spread the word that we must get involved in mainstream politics. We must seek for elected officials to protect our...
Thank you, Dr. Nur Nabi. And next presenter of the paper is General Muhammad Aminul Kareem, who is currently the Military Secretary to the Honorable President. Glancing at his paper, and I'm sure that listening to him you'll agree, that in his paper, Transformational Leadership, Bangladesh Bureaucracy, he has commanded not just his troops, but also his thoughts on bringing about that required change, which in a very direct sort of way we have been talking about this afternoon, to create about that transformational change, where these opportunities, these ideals, which are waiting to be realized, but failing to be achieved because of these gaps. Thank you very much. It is General Aminul Kareem.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Mr. Chairman, Dr. Kamal Hussain. We have an excellent here at the moment, Mr. Anwar Chaudhary. We are also part of the Commonwealth, and we're part of that, we're a colony to that. I hope that you convey the message that I'm trying to convey here. And it's purely an academic work, and it has nothing to do with my present position in the government. Suggestions are, I've tried to be as constructive as possible, and I would like to see our Bangladesh has huge potentials, as the experts predict, even to reach to the tier of middle-income group of countries, given some more momentum in terms of governance, eradicating corruption, and ensuring political stability. Bangladesh is often battered by natural calamities which cause substantial damage to the infrastructure and its effort to eradicate poverty. Bangladesh has certain advantages like homogeneity in terms of ethnicity, religion, and a culture of tolerance which play a great impacting role in its integration process. Besides, it has a huge population which can be called a comparative advantage that can be converted into competitive advantage by turning them into human resources. Now, the political leadership and the public bureaucracy are interlinked in running the governance of the country. And I would like to take out the bureaucracy from there. There's the formal power of leadership. And the real challenge that remains in the realm of implementing the decisions and directions given by the political leaders or the political masters. when there are insurmountable challenges and handicaps at different stages of implementation process. Bangladesh is very good in macro level planning, but bad at micro level planning and implementation. In both the types of leadership, there is a dire need of vision, charisma, creativity, changing and challenging the status quo, transforming the subordinates, all the followers to get into the vision of the leaders and be able to look into their emotions and energy. Now, my paper would like to attempt to show the differences between the transactional and transformational leadership traits and would impress upon our bureaucracy to adapt more towards transformational leadership, which would help provide visionary, proactive, perspective planning for the development of Bangladesh. I would like to computerize the options as much as possible. However, implementing the options would need a motivation level that comes from a very high level of value system, which has been covered by Dr. Halim, which is otherwise lacking in the Bangladesh society today, very much. We suffer from a syndrome of value deficiency in Bangladesh. Now, an American scholar has said, I would like to use the term introjection, introjecting reforms and innovations that can work in a society and rejecting those that are suitable or even cause disturbance to the polity. And that is what Bangladesh is today. Now, I would like to touch a little bit on the transformational traits part of it. It is the latest trend in the leadership spectrum. Here, the Philip Sadler, a famous leadership expert, has said, here the focus is on leader behavior during periods of organizational transition and on processes such as creating visions of desired future state and obtaining employee commitment to change. We are in the transition phase. Now, transformational leadership aims to walk an extra mile or take a bit more risk or take more responsibility instead of passing the buck in undertaking a task. And that is what I am trying to hint to the bureaucrats. Stagnancy of or maintaining status quo is the job of the routine manager or a transactional leader, but creating a new context in order to be more productive in the goal of transformational is the goal of a transformational leader. Sense of justice and commitment and be able to inspire the subordinates and should be able to intellectually stimulate the subordinates or to their stakeholders. Now, leadership is about understanding the environment, adapting to the environment and be able to communicate the contingencies commensurate to the environment to the stakeholders. Mahatma Gandhi or Mao Zedong inspired the whole nation to fight for the freedom and emancipation in such a way that hundreds and thousands of them were even ready to die for the cause at their every beck and call. All great leaders of the world are generally men of knowledge and wisdom. Practical knowledge has been substituted for a leader in order to inspire his subordinates with ideas, values, attitudes, perceptions, visions, missions, and objectives. The last point that I would like to impress is the personal touch part of it, which is lacking in Bangladesh society, absolutely. And the personal touch a leader must provide to his subordinates. Sadly, such leadership practice is seriously lacking in Bangladesh environment. Mere patting makes a lot of difference to an employee in Bangladesh environment. Maslow's theory of needs does indicate such directions in order to upgrade the motivation levels of the people or the employees. In a nutshell, transformational leaders are seen as change agents, courageous, believing in people, having a strong set of values, lifelong learners, capable of coping with complexity, uncertainty, and ambiguity, and they are visionaries. Now I come to the Bangladesh bureaucracy in perspective. I try to relate those with what we have today and what we don't have. Max Weber, the chief architect of bureaucracy, provides certain features of bureaucracy like hierarchy, promotion based on professional merit, development of a career service, a reliance on rigid and formal, depends on precedent and lacks initiative and resourcefulness. Now an American professor has challenged the legitimacy of bureaucracy in the sense that they are not accountable. The legitimacy of bureaucracy occurs when bureaucratic policy making is subjected to direct popular control. If bureaucracy is isolated from public accountability, then bureaucracy can in no way be responsible to public interest and desires. I would like to quote from Professor Habib Jafrullah and Professor Mahmoud Khan from their book. In Bangladesh, the bureaucracy to a large extent conforms to the Weberian model. Bureaucrats are not always assigned specific positions on the basis of their specialization or expertise, but rather on the basis of belonging to a particular service cadre. Rationality is conceived as in a narrow sense. It is primarily equated with administrative efficiency and not effectiveness and economy, both of which are considered aims in themselves rather than means to an end. The end is the effective delivery of public service, and that is probably not done. An individual bureaucrat may have the charisma, vision, or personalized consideration like that of a transformational leader, and he would like to establish his leadership, but the environment of the boundary around which he is operating may not permit him to realize his full potentials. Initiative, dynamism, creative and innovative thinking, which Professor Dr. Halim Rahman has covered, which are essential for transformational leadership and should be undertaken by a bureaucrat in the decision-making process. Risk-taking is one of the hallmarks of real leadership, which Professor Halim Rahman has covered. In a scenario like this, a bureaucrat will not take a risk since he has somebody above him always in the decision-making loop. In Bangladesh environment, it is reportedly known that the full secretary of the government puts forward a file to the cabinet ministers to seek a decision for a sanction of a sum of $25,000, which comes to about $350 to be disbursed for the repair and maintenance of a small building in a remote, far-flung village of Bangladesh. I'd like to quote from ADB Country Governance Report. An additional constituent to good governance at the local level is the extremely centralized form of government now in Dhaka, now in place. Union Parishads that we have, the lowest tier that we have in the local government structure, derive their authority and a substantial portion of the funds from the national ministries, whose effective reach to the level is constrained by the intervening levels of government. For example, Union Parishads must submit their budgets and work plans for review and follow-up action by several appointed officials at the Upazila and district levels. As a result, the UN and the chairman of the Upazila Development Committee has more de facto power over the development projects than by the Union Parishads themselves. Even for posting of foundation level officers like a lecturer, teacher of a college or high school, or a medical officer at the Upazila, the district, sub-district, the central government located in Dhaka, where there are many tiers involved, as I have already mentioned, gets involved in this subject. Here again, the timidity sets in and delays the decision-making process. This also gives rise to more probability of corruption and sufferings of the employees. Motivation, which is conditioned more by intrinsic factors than extrinsic, get badly affected by the overall and the overall productivity of the government definitely suffers. Now, delay in the system is unwarranted and is a recurrent phenomenon in Bangladeshi environment. I'll give you another case. It is reportedly known that a simple clarification on a point pending for last about 6 months, asked from the High Office of the Republic to a functioning ministry, took about 6 months. That too after several reminders. And these delays are caused both at the vertical level and also at the horizontal level. When in cross-ministry, searching is done, the delays are caused. When within the ministry the search is done, there are about 10 to 12 or even 8 to 10 tiers involved. So that causes a lot of delays in the system. I would like to give another case. It is reportedly known that the case of important appointment remained pending in a functioning ministry for 3 years. The case could have been processed to the appropriate authority for approval. As a matter of fact, the incumbent continued functioning presumably without lawful authority for 3 years. When on the eve of a ceremony it was discovered that the appointment was not validated, so the subsequent actions that followed could be questioned. Then the Pandora's box was opened, and I think things were patched up somehow. Now that shows the lack of accountability and transparency in our system, which is so essential for good governance. Even status quo is not maintained in such a case, and that status quo maintenance is also part of transactional leadership. It's not part of transformational leadership. The creative or innovative ideas are so critical in this globalized, I call it intelligent 21st century world. It is not expected that the bureaucrat will turn out to be a leader like Gandhi, Mao Zedong, Martin Luther King, Kennedy, but he has to capture some of his styles or traits in order to be successful in his domain. And the domain of a bureaucrat has to have contemporary and up-to-date knowledge and the ability to adapt, to apply those in the field he is handling. Bangladesh government would probably not have signed the production sharing contracts with the international oil companies where 72% of the revenue earnings are given to the IOCs in foreign currencies. If our bureaucrats could be armed with more technical and appropriate knowledge. However, I am not also excluding the politicians from this responsibility. It is again the lack of adequate technical and appropriate knowledge or the lack of realization of urgency. Bangladesh as yet could not place the case before the United Nations regarding the maritime demarcation of the Bay of Bengal, although it ratified the UNCLOS in 2001. Bangladesh has not yet carried out necessary survey to decide about the extent of its continental side. The control points of its baseline, both in the western and eastern sectors, have been contested both by India and Myanmar, and we are in a very critical scenario. And Bangladesh is likely to get zone locked or sea locked if we do not carry out immediate negotiations with the actors concerned. Now my question is the person who is supposed to carry out this homework on important national issues has the requisite ability and the right ability to carry out such homework? I'll give you another case. This is reportedly known that a summary for an appointment to a very high office was placed in the high office in such a way that the constitutional provision apparently got violated. When pointed out, the concerned officer justified by giving reference to the similar precedent. To that officer, precedent was more important than the constitution itself, which shows the lack of knowledge of the constitution both by him and by his predecessor. In a globalized interdependent world, specialist knowledge by the bureaucrats in the respective fields of activity is essential even if it is presumed that they are not transformational leaders. Individuals' stimulation is essential to be a transformational leader. Now, bureaucrats would not like to part with the control and superintendence they have on different aspects of local government. Bureaucrats both at the local class and also at the central level have varying degrees of control over the local governments. However, the interests of the local politicians are also involved here. It is a difficult task to meaningfully direct, control and monitor the activities of local governments from the capital city, and those local governments are spread in every nook and corner of the country. And therefore, you would lack personalized communication. Now, ladies and gentlemen, with that, I would not say a sorry state, but then, well, things are not in a good shape. I would like to give some of my suggestions, and these are absolutely suggestions. Nothing to be sacrosanct about it. The response that I have to start with is, the first one is, I would like to suggest a flatter organization system which goes with the modern management concepts, as against too many tired vertical organizations in the bureaucratic hierarchy of the central government may be thought of. It could be brought down to 4 to 5 tiers that would facilitate better and faster decision-making process. However, the number of streams dealing with limited subjects within a ministry or division may be increased. Similar types of ministries divisions could be clustered together within which the officers and employees would generally rotate. Example could be the ministries and divisions of finance, planning, commerce, external resources division, expatriate welfare division could be clustered together, something like strategic business units as practiced in the business world. Strategic management planning along with the management by objectives technique as practiced by the business world dovetail to the culture of public service may be adopted for the Bangladesh civil service. Vision, mission, long-term objectives, strategies, yearly objectives, policies, feedback system for each division and ministry, corporation department should be clearly spelled out in a realistic, achievable, time-bound yardstick. In order to attract the better graduates of the universities, pay, perks and privileges in the government sector for the government employees should be greatly enhanced. And I would suggest that money from the annual development plan can be diverted to the revenue budget for this. I think that will be more cost effective. An exhaustive, realistic, up-to-date and timely training package program should be developed in the training institutions, and that is lacking so critically in our training institutions. Training in the form of case studies, seminars, group projects, especially in the field, at the field levels, presentations, research papers, in-basket exercises, visits and orientation with varied types of installations, institutions, corporate world, NGOs, local government, industries may be given more emphasis. Field trips and exercises, something similar to military system, could be given a consideration. Now, a veteran public servant, a retired bureaucrat, he has written in his book, and I would like to quote from there, Mr. A.M. Shaukat Ali, Various studies have drawn attention to the deficiencies in the training and civil servants, in the training of the civil servants, especially post-entry and pre-entry training. Some of these deficiencies are as follows: lack of qualified and well-trained staff arising out of the posting of unwilling civil servants in the training institutes. And such postings do not take into account the qualification and experience of the civil servants, which result in the low quality of training and lack of motivation. The post-entry training and in-service training courses are not well integrated and scheduled to provide and continuously update the level of training and knowledge of civil servants. Questions have been already raised about the relevance of training, utilization of training, and the incentives for training. The next suggestion is successful field level appointments like Opposition and Envoy Officer, Deputy Commissioners, or the civil servants or Superintendent of Police, or an independent assignment in a foreign country may be given more credence in career development. Due importance should be given to the annual confidential reports. Next response is parliamentary training committees may be made more assertive to make the bureaucrats more accountable. Even the courts of law should attempt to go into the greater details of a case, if they are not already doing it, that involves the government projects and the functionaries, and make the public servants accountable. E-governance, I think many of our presenters have talked about that, or digital governance should be given special priority. E-governance has to be seen as a tool for good governance and human development. The civil service members may be made aware of the necessity of e-governance, and for that the NRB people can really help us and be thoroughly armed with the necessary competencies. And I think Mr. Naidu, the Chief Minister in Andhra Pradesh, could be a role model for Bangladesh. The last point that I have is that the stopgap measure, a core committee of experts drawn mainly from the civil society, universities and research institutes may be formed to assist the concerned ministry and division in handling the technical, complicated matters that involve the matters of vital national interest, as long as required. Necessary expertise are not developed in the ministry or division concerned. And as I said, this is probably already there, but then what I'm suggesting, it should be done in a more structured way. And they have clear terms of reference when they are appointed. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I conclude. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, General Karim, for some very important and very significant suggestions, not merely to revamp the bureaucracy, get them well trained, but for them to have a focused aim which can be yoked together with the right sort of political idealism to take the country forward. And now again, with very great pleasure, we will hear the voice of politics, Honorable Mr. Hanson Clark, State Senator, State of Michigan.
To all of our distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Hanson Shim Clark. I'm a Michigan State Senator. It's an honor for me to be here today. I have a lot to share with you, but if I could, I would like to keep my remarks short. As you know, today and my visit here has been a life-changing one for me. Can you hear me okay now? As you know, my father was born in Sylhet, and all of his life he had desired that his only child, his only son, which is me, that I had the opportunity of being educated and raised here in this country. That did not happen due to his timely death when I was 8 years old. But today marks one of the first days of me being here. Here's why I would say it's important to be involved in politics in your home country. And this is the overall view that I have. It's in order for you to live a better life where you are, but also for your family members to live a better life here in Bangladesh. Here's something that I would think would be important to live a better life in your own country and in Bangladesh, is to be proud of who you are as a Bangladeshi. Now you may wonder, how can I, someone who until yesterday never stepped foot in this country, I was born in Detroit, I represent the city of Detroit, I'm elected as a state senator because Detroiters chose me, not because Bangladeshis did. If you don't mind, I want to share with you something personal about me, and that's why I can say to you about our traditional values. Those are very important. My father, I believe, knew that his health was failing, and he was a good Bangladeshi dad. And what he did was, every day that he was alive with me, he spent time with me, every single day. So even though my father died when I was 8 years old, I have the clearest picture of him. Not only of who he was physically as a man, but all the values that he represented. Just so you can fully understand, my father's values were shaped as a man during the 1920s in Sylhet. It's those values that he passed on to me. I haven't been here before, but those values have always been in me. But those are the true traditional values from back in the 1920s. He passed on through me. The value of education, the value of having a faith in God, and not emphasizing material things. Family was important. You worked because it was a huge opportunity to be able to contribute to others. That was value. So if anything needs to be changed, I would say it's not our traditional values. What we need to change is this. The culture and attitude of modern day politics in Bangladesh must be eliminated and go back to our traditional values of serving the public, and not serving ourselves. So if anything I would say is this. Be true to the value of your parents and your grandparents. That is what makes this country great. It's not the ability to be able to buy more cars and Escalades and live in a larger house. See, that's what my culture says is success. That is not success. It's what we know in our hearts to be good and right. That is how you succeed in life. And that's why I urge you, in order for us to make this country more prosperous, you do not have to become consumer-oriented. Have faith in yourself, have faith in God, and serve your family and your community. That's what I wanted to share with you overall. It's very important because, I'm newly married, and my wife was raised in the United States. And I try to explain to her the values of my dad, and I realize now how old-fashioned I am, even though I'm born and raised in America. But she's coming to see my point of view right now. Now, I want to get to, if I can I make a couple of statements about how to effectively get involved in politics? And I'll be very brief and succinct, but I appreciate you listening to me. If you listen to Morshid Alam, who was an elected member of the school board, and he ran for the state senate against an incumbent senator, and he did well, even though he lost the election. Now, I did the same thing. I ran against an incumbent senator, and I won. And I'll tell you what the difference is, but here is the value in this. You see, I never ran as a Bangladeshi American. People in the city of Detroit, the state of Michigan, they don't even know where Bangladesh is. If anything, they thought I was maybe Mexican or Arab, so they had no conception of what my history was about. But I'm born in Detroit, so I ran as a Detroiter. And that's how I won the seat. You have Morshid Alam, who was proud to be a Bangladeshi American, but yet he didn't win, and I'll tell you why he didn't win. Because I believe he had faith in the Bangladeshi community to support him, and our community failed him. So here's my point. You see, with me, I never counted on our community. There were hardly any Bangladeshi Americans in the district that I ran in. My constituency, as a matter of fact, is largely African American. See, African Americans put me in office, and those are the people that I decided to serve as fully as I could. Here's what I urge you to do. I urge you to change the mindset of determining who you think will win the office and then donating money. Don't do that. Look at the person that you believe is going to be just and fair, that understands the value in a broad, true immigration policy, and understands the value of free trade. That's Morshid Alam. So here's what I ask you to do. The next time he runs for a higher office, forget
forget about if he has a chance to win. You give him the chance to win because he's a Bangladeshi American and he's a good man and he'll do a good job in office. That's what I urge you to do. So, finally, my point, I would want to make one acknowledgement, is that I wanted to thank Ihsan Takbi for giving me the opportunity of being here in Bangladesh. In the next couple of days, I will be going to my father's home in Sylhet in Beni Bazaar, and that'll be a true moving experience for me. But just in closing, to be successful, be who you are. Be the Bangladeshis. Thank you. God bless you.
Very, very moving presentation. You have dared to pronounce on issues which shall remain vital and core tradition and is sometimes unfortunately thought of not friendly enough to speak. But may I at this juncture give way to my temptation and let you know that the chair of the session, a legendary figure in Bangladesh, who has over the decades emerged as the conscience of Bangladesh. And I mention these things, this is exactly what he has been exhorting the nation to do. And many a problem that we faced last year and the years preceding would perhaps not have been had we listened to him. So it is a great honor for us, as his voice has been the first and the foremost, not merely on current domestic issues, but on the opportunities and the rights and the issues of the non-resident Bangladeshis. I was so moved that I had to mention this about our sir, who is the chair of the session. And at the end of the question and answer, he will be speaking to you. But right now, it is our friend Mr. Ayub Karomali, Councillor, London Borough of Newham, who will make his presentation.
Honorable Chairman, Dr. Kamal Hussain, Your Excellency, British High Commissioner, Mr. Anwar Chowdhury, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ayub Karomali. I'm a Labour Party member, and I'm also a Labour Councillor in the London Borough of Newham. The theme for this seminar is the benefit of NRB participation in the politics of their country of residence. Sir Chair, with your permission, I would like to deviate from the theme and talk about something that I touched on yesterday at the inaugural session. This issue I want to talk about is how the second generation of Bangladeshis living in the UK can be involved in the development efforts in Bangladesh. The UK, where I live, has a large and growing Bangladeshi population. It is estimated we have around 400,000 Bangladeshis living at the moment in the UK. One thing about the Bangladeshi population in the UK is that by and large it's a very young population. The vast majority of the British Bangladeshis are under 25. So the energy and the vibrancy in our community is equal to none. British population generally is aged and declining. Ours is growing and young. Now, amongst this, there are a large number of very talented and successful young people. It is estimated that around 30,000 Bangladeshis are now British educated graduates. And the number is increasing all the time. Again, estimates, but it is often said that 3,000 to 4,000 young Bangladeshis are now graduating each year in the UK. Now these Bangladeshis are making a very important contribution in all walks of life in British society. We have high flyers in politics. There is a member of House of Lords soon, hopefully, we'll have a member of House of Commons elected, hopefully, through my party. We have high flyers in finance, in medicine, in law, and most other important professions. I want Bangladesh, our country here, to recognize these talents and take initiative proactively to attract these young people to come and join in the development of their motherland. I think they can be an important source of expertise and skills for Bangladesh. They can be an important partner in development. If engaged effectively, I think they will bring the kind of dynamism and energy that is badly needed in the country. Now the question is how? How do we do that? And here I'm delighted that our ambassador is here, High Commissioner is here, because I think he may be able to steer this proposal forward. I think the first thing in terms of engaging the younger generation of British Bangladeshis in the development efforts here is to recognize that there is a lot of goodwill, and our High Commissioner talked about it. People want to get involved. You know, the sons and daughters of my father's generations are very interested in the homeland of their parents. They want to get involved. I spent 3 years working in Sylhet as a director of an European-funded project back in 2003. And although it was a very challenging experience, nevertheless, it was one of the most rewarding periods of my professional career. And I know that there are lots of young Bangladeshis in Britain. If they had the opportunity, they will do the same. However, one has to be very realistic. They are not going to be doing it for the love of the country. They will demand and they will need the kind of remuneration packages that are on offer in the country where they are. I think this is why our governments need to be bold and radical. I want Bangladesh government to identify some key sectors where we need the expertise of the NRB communities, especially the second generation Bangladeshis in Britain. I want them to try a pilot program whereby second generation NRBs will be recruited on fixed term contract with ambitious targets and tightly managed. I think if this is done, it will be successful. Of course, the scheme will be expensive, especially if we have to pay them UK rates, but in my view, I don't think there is any need for panic here, because what will happen is that these people will deliver, and delivery is what we need. There is a culture and there is institutional inertia. Experts talked about them earlier. We need an injection of fresh blood in our bureaucracy and our system. And I think the expats can do that. Finally, I want to say that there is also a political reason for me suggesting this. And again, I touched on this yesterday. In the past, brain drain has always happened from poor countries to the richer worlds. They have snatched our best talents because we were not able to provide the kind of remuneration and opportunities they are looking for. With the engagement of British second generation Bangladeshis, I think there is an opportunity to reverse this brain drain. I think policymakers and future governments in Bangladesh need to think beyond the box. It has not been possible to think beyond the box in the past, but we are in a new situation in Bangladesh. I think this new situation with renewed optimism and hope, we can think beyond the box and be radical. Thank you very much.
I fervently request you to be brief, to introduce yourself, and the question answer session will be followed by the concluding remarks of our honored chairperson, Dr. Kamal Hussain. Thank you.
In life, Mr. Chairman, His Excellency, Chief Guest, members of the panel, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Doros Kolar. I was born here in Bangladesh, in a village called Jagannathpur, where His Excellency Amber Chowdhury was also born. And like him, I left Bangladesh at an early age. In fact, at the age of 10. I went over to England to join my parents, and of course, I was educated there, and then became settled in the London Borough of Tower Hamlets. Great Britain, in my opinion, is a country that offers opportunities, and we've heard so much about opportunities this afternoon. In Great Britain, if people are willing to work hard, then they can really make something of themselves. Considering the fact that I had left Bangladesh at the age of 10, where I could hardly speak, read, or write a word of English, that I was given the opportunity to be educated in England, which is why I'm able to join you here today in the first NRB conference. It is because opportunities in England that existed around me that I was able to tap into. And as a result of that, I graduated, and I am now working in the health and safety profession as a consultant. And very often, I prepare a lot of premises inspection reports that comes to the British High Commission here in Bangladesh. I have, and have always had, a passion for politics, having seen the struggle that my parents had gone through, having seen the struggle that my community had went through. We have heard from our American counterparts today some of the struggle that they're going through to be able to tap into the mainstream of politics. Well, back in England, we went through exactly the same process. And I'll tell you something, nothing is given to you on the plate in this world. You have to fight for it and work for it. Just like now, I have to raise my voice to come here and speak. Thank you. I remember some of the struggle that we went through in Great Britain, one of which is, and I will share this with me when I go back a very long way. When we used to apply to join any main political parties, we were told there were no vacancies. And it wasn't until the Bangladeshis in Tower Hamlets joined hands and forces and decided to put up an independent candidate, and we had won the seat, that the main political parties decided to open up the membership list and allow us into the party. It is through that we have managed to get into the mainstream of politics in England. I'm not saying that we have achieved our objectives yet, but at least we're in the right direction. We are getting there. In 2002, I became a councillor, and by hook or crook, in 2005, with the blessing of God and all my friends and colleagues, I became the mayor of the borough. in Tower Hamlets. Tower Hamlets is probably one of the smallest boroughs in London. In fact, it has an area of just under 8 square miles and a population of about 250,000. Out of that, there are about 190,000 voters and about 60,000 youth population. So I share the sentiment that Ayub had talked about young people. The percentage of Bangladeshis in Tower Hamlets is about 36%. And during my mayorship period, because I love Bangladesh, I led a delegation to Bangladesh. And during my visit, I had met the then Prime Minister, a lot of the senior ministers, and of course, His Excellency, Mr. E Chowdhury, who was so welcoming. And we were also helped by the then Bangladeshi government, Bangladeshi High Commissioner in London. Ladies and gentlemen, the topic today is, I think, it's a very crucial topic. And I firmly believe that it is absolutely vital for people to actively participate in the politics of their country of residence. Reasons being that studies that have been undertaken in England has shown that the achievement of Bangladeshi community in UK, in comparison with some of the other ethnic minority communities in England, are still poor. In fact, the Bangladeshi community, I believe, has got lots of scope to further excel in the field of education, politics, economy, and social development. The more we participate in mainstream politics, the more we can contribute in social and economic development of our native country, and more the community will be benefited. Many of us remain confined among ourselves only, and I have a feeling that this will slow down our social rise in the UK. The same kind of thinking may be prevailing in other countries also. I would urge upon all sensible NRBs to take care of this matter and to ensure that that message is passed on. I know for a fact that a lot of Bangladeshis living in Great Britain have a passion for Bangladeshi politics and actively participate from there. Well, whilst I see nothing wrong with that, however, we have seen evidence of this dividing our community into small groups. It's been a great opportunity to meet you all. I wish Bangladesh a huge success. Long live Bangladesh. Thank you very much once again.
Good to see you. Mr. Chairman, distinguished guests, and all participants. Actually, I feel myself very shy here. I'm the only person from Nordic countries here representing, from Sweden. Actually, I would just to share some ideas about the second generation of Bangladeshis, especially living in Scandinavian countries, because our generation, second generation, they're learning Swedish, not English. So it's a different language that they cannot bring back to Bangladesh. That's why what we are trying to learn them Bangla. And we do understand that Bangla is the key that can bring a society very closer to. This is the key point that can bring them very close to their society. That's what we're trying to do. That's why we're trying to learn them Bengali. And Swedish society gives us opportunity to teach our children in school Bengali. So I will ask our British friends, why don't you try to learn your children Bengali? Because I have seen in London, in around areas there, that do speak mostly the English. They have almost forgotten English, Bengali. So I don't know. I would like to ask you about it. Do you have any comments on it?
Thank you.
About myself, actually, I was elected Parliament member of Swedish Parliament last year. This is the first time an Asian could be coming to Swedish Parliament.
I think we have time for just one last question, because the organizers have been telling me for the last half an hour that we are very fast running out of time. And I'm sure that all of us are greatly looking forward to hearing Dr. Kamal.
My name is Mohammed Ghulam Rabbani. I introduce myself as a financial consultant for a global company based in Bahrain. We are having experience of a lot of success stories from our friends from United States and UK. We are proud of that. In statewide, the most interesting topic was presented by General Amir al-Karim. Yeah. There's a saying in political science by Harold Lasky that bureaucracy is unnecessary. And another says, I forget it actually. Now, my question is whether we have a very precise policy to overcome the red tape in the bureaucracy. To Respected General, and also to our legendary lawyer, Dr. Kamal, that whether we have this sort of any progressive form of bureaucracy to reform for the betterment of the country in the future. Thank you very much.
Before Dr. Kamal Hussain delivers his speech, the Honorable, I'm very sorry, it's not for me to decide, I've been told repeatedly, and I feel terrible because I would happily have continued here, and so would most of us. But another session is about to start.
Very short question.
All right, a very short one.
Two key factors of our economy, that is, one is remittance and one is garments. And we know the $6 billion every year coming in Bangladesh, that is from poor labor who are earning in foreign, and they are sending all of their earning. And we know this conference is actually the conference of scholars, NRB scholars, but the thing is that the scholars earning a lot of money in foreign, but their proportion sending money in countries very tricky, I think. So what is their plan to contribute Bangladesh?
Thank you. Before Dr. Kamal Hussain speaks, the Honorable British High Commissioner, who has given a very inspiring speech today and during the time of his tour in Bangladesh, has so eloquently represented the best of the cultures of our two countries. He will respond to the observation made about teaching of English. And after that, General Kaleem will talk about the bureaucracy question. Thank you.
Thank you very much for allowing me to respond to what I think is quite an important question. I am not sure the answer I will give is the one you want to hear. I totally agree that there is no greater power than to have eloquence in language, and there is no greater connectivity than to connect through a common language. But I, like other speakers you've heard, I want Bangladeshis to be successful where they are living now, like yourself. I want those people to be eloquent and proficient and articulate in English. Why? Because that is crucial for their success in language. The desire you have to connect Bangladesh and Bangladeshi culture with the diaspora can be achieved through other means. I do not want the primary objective to be successful in the country you're in to be compromised with any confusion with who they are, where they are, and what they need to do. Quite the opposite of what you're suggesting, we are doing in Bangladesh. We recognize that English now has become a development issue. It is no longer a cultural issue. It is simply one of pure economics. Without English, you are now blind to the world. You can't type in anything in Google and get an answer. And you will become increasingly detached. Without English, you can't actually join the world economy. You can't get a job. There are no rickshawalas in Bangladesh who speak good English. You know why? because if you spoke good English, you would not be a lecturer. Absolutely guaranteed. The IT people that I have a relationship with, good IT people don't get jobs here in Bangladesh. You know why? Because they can't speak good English. So we need to take the language English out of the cultural sphere and put it into the economic sphere and treat it like physics, like maths, like as an enabler. So I think that's it. I actually, just to be fair to you, I love the Bengali language. I study it, and because I love Bengali folk songs, and I have been actually translating Bangladeshi songs into English because I feel I want to share this richness with the world that hasn't been done. I'm totally with you in what your heart is saying in terms of connectivity of a culture, but what I'm saying is that the best way you can help Bangladesh is to be successful, and to be successful where you are. Come back to Bangladesh as chairman of IBM. Come back to Bangladesh as chairman of HSBC, as the general engineer. Don't come back to Bangladesh with a loose idea, a romantic idea, wanting to help because you were born here. Because Bangladesh doesn't need you. They want you to be successful. Be successful, then come back
And as a brother, may I also add, don't divide Bangladesh abroad on Upazila terms. General Country will respond.
The question was on whether we have a policy or not for the bureaucracy, the running of the government. I think that was the question. Yeah, we definitely have a policy. We have rules of business. We have SOPs, standing operating. We have a lot of regulations, hundreds and thousands of regulations. We have inherited those from the British Empire, from the Pakistan Empire, and we are ourselves creating those.
You must stop blaming us. Get off that. You should change. We want you to change.
Yeah, so what I'm suggesting is a change.
Just forget everything.
The message in my paper was to change.
No, that's because your mind is not there.
Yeah,
who is asking you to continue? Malaysians have dropped in, the Singaporeans have
yeah,
dropped in.
absolutely.
Everybody's
So we are faltering in that. We are faltering in that, and I'm asking in my paper to change. Yeah, I take your point.
Don't make excuses.
Excellency, I take your point that I'm asking for change because transformational leadership is about changing the system. It is getting redundant. It is getting rusty. That's what I'm saying.
You are missing a point on transformational leadership. Okay, transformational leadership is transition of leadership, transition,
yes,
integration.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
You're not putting that point. Transformational leadership is transition.
I think if you go through my paper, you will find that.
I did follow.
Please go through my entire paper, then you'll understand that. Yeah, I'm meaning that. Yeah, I mentioned that in my paper. It's a transitional phase. Yeah, I mentioned that in my paper. You are right. You are right. I'm trying to make a difference between transactional and transformational. What I'm not asking for is the transactional. What I'm asking for is the transformational, and that calls for change, for innovation, for creativity, for new ideas, for taking risks, for go beyond the transcend the boundary.
And pro people.
Yeah, proactive and be pro people. It's understand people's sentiment. Talk with, work with the people. Understand the sentiments and be with and the people should understand your sentiments also, your energy also, your emotions also. Get them involved into your energy, your psyche, your mindset, your values, and only then you can become a good leader. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say, and that is what I'm saying that it is getting our bureaucracy is probably a little rusty, and as Mahmoud Khan has said that this is a colonial based bureaucracy, and that needs to be changed. And we have a lot of regulations, rules, and everything. What I'm suggesting is we should come out from the colonial concept. We should come out from the Weberian concept, Max Weber's concept. We should come out to the accountability concept, to the democratic concept, to the well-being of the people concept, to the development concept. See, development bureaucracy and public. There's a difference between development bureaucracy and public bureaucracy. I'm trying to take it development bureaucracy. Bureaucracy geared to take care, poised to take care of the welfare of the people, development of the people, needs of the people. You have to be proactive. You have to understand their requirement tomorrow, futuristic, visionary, charismatic, team building. I'm asking for that. Cross-cultural leadership. You see, because we have a lot of Indians, a lot of British people, a lot of Americans working in our country. Japanese, Koreans are investing in a big way. So it has to be cross-cultural leadership. So I'm trying to go into those details. So our bureaucracy, the public sector has adapted pretty well into our scenario. But the bureaucracy is not adapting to our scenario. That's what the shortfall we have. So it's possible. I think new generation is coming up very fine. Our younger generation is coming up very fine. What I'm asking for is training, motivation, and for that we need support from our British friends, their system. I'm talking about the assessment center that is practiced in the British civil service. I mentioned that in my paper. I precisely talked about the assessment center to be introduced in Bangladesh bureaucracy, and I mentioned that in my paper, and that is practice, and I learned that from Mr. Anwar Chowdhury. I was talking to him the other day, and he told me about this concept, and I've introduced, introduced that in my paper, and suggested that in my paper. I've taken your point. So I'm talking about that actually, and I'm putting more emphasis on the training, value changes, motivation level, mindset change. That is what we need. You need to be more active, more faster. Decision making has to be faster. This is what it is. But we have a lot of rules of business, SOPs, policies, and in Bangla we call it vidhis. The vidhi, a lot of vidhis we can create. Every day we are getting a lot of rules and regulations. So we have to come out. Things are there, but we have to work on that. That's what is my message. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I also agree that it's now 60 years since the British left, full 60 years this year. So we should not be saying that what we have today is what the British left us. We have today something which we have not been able to change it yet. We have wanted to change it, but because of the kind of history we have had, before we could change the things overtook it. Those who wanted to bring about the change were overtaken by major upheavals. So many of you I see are those who were born after 71, especially those who are coming from abroad. If you want to write something about e-linkages, you can write it in. But basically what is there is, as I said, the right to be ruled by representative, the right to life, the right to all that you need to have a full life, liberty, protection of law, equal protection of law, equality before the law, and the protection of law through an independent judiciary. Now, these are the things that a leadership is meant to ensure through providing through the system of education, through the system of involving people, their participation. See, the participation in this great task of a state are the leader being able to correctly respond to the people's priorities and then seeing what are the energies and resources that have to be pulled together, welded together to be able to make you achieve that. And what I would say here is that participation by people. All of you, I think the one thing that you sense over these last 2 days, and I sense whenever I go abroad and meet NRBs in their own homes, is their urge to contribute. They all want to contribute. Willing to walk out with a microphone to any village, to any street and put it to the people. Give a list of these 10 things, what I have just said. You find that that's what they want. So for the leadership, knowing the purpose, the goals, national goals is easy. So the leader, whoever wants to assume that responsibility, and it's a big responsibility, given the fact that resources have to be harnessed. And that note I found was I was very moved by Senator Hanson saying, my values of my father and my grandfather. Because they were great values. It was those values that inspired those who fought for independence. Because when you go out to fight for independence, you don't do a bottom line calculation. Amar ki labh hobe. You see, this is what you are hinting at when you feel the culture of globalization, the bottom line. I would also say with Senator Hanson, you know, just as you have AD, after the Lord, breaking off two epochs in history, two historical epochs. I would say for the globalized world is the world AE, after Enron. The world after Enron is the world where ends don't justify the means, the wrong side of what is just and right. So the values that our fathers and our grandfathers in Bangladesh and grandmothers left to us are one of the most valuable parts of our heritage, and that we value, that you carry with you wherever you go. And I absolutely agree with you that in whatever societies you are, it's not the bottom line, meaning what profit can I make out of this transaction. It's not what you achieve, but how you achieve it. Like a runner in the Olympics with steroids, they have to give their gold medal back. We don't want you to give your gold medal back. We want you to win even a bronze medal, win it honestly. It's something you will be able to enjoy. These are the sort of thoughts I share, again, because I feel we are the generation between Senator Hanson's grandmother and the next generation. This is what I share with all of you. Thank you very much.